because it's interactive. We've done probably, I don't know, 20 of these already. And it's been one of the most pleasurable experiences of my life. I mean, it really has. I've never had the opportunity to do what I'm doing like this because we were talking about this last night on the bus. I had gotten a bad rap over the years. People said I was unapproachable. Let me tell you how it works with me. If there's 10 people standing around me and they're all trying to talk at the same time, I withdraw. And the reason I do that, it's not because I don't care, it's because I care a lot. Because I want to answer each person individually, and because it's absolute chaos, I pull back. Because it's frustrating for me. Because I want to give everybody the individual time. I could never do that before. This is the first time I've been able to do this. I like it because the questions that I get from you guys are way better than journalists. Journalists ask the same silly questions over and over. You guys are fairly creative. So we're going to go around the room. Everybody's going to get something to talk about. I'll try my best to answer. I'll try. Yes, sir.
All right, so it was tough. So many questions that you have to ask you.
Well, what's the first thing comes to you?
Well, so on a personal and then also a band professional level. So as you know, we travel through life, whatever. We come to many crossroads and splits and stuff. So sometimes you go, if I went this way or went this way, what my life has been like. So I guess your personal side of it and band wise, are there things that you would like to be able to go back and if I had went this way or that way, wherever it is?
The whole woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah. Everybody usually says, I'm happy with the way my life is. I get that, but if you could go back and see where your life might have been, are there moments that you would have?
One thing I've learned in doing these meet and greets is to go, doctors will tell you, if you're having a problem with something, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Because that's usually where the truth is, as opposed to sitting and trying to filter it through and all. So the first thing I'm thinking when you're asking this is the old Sinatra song, My Way, where he says, regrets I've had a few, but then again too few to mention. That's horse shit. It's like, it sounds great on lyrics, or in lyrics, but everybody's got them. I mean, if I had one thing I could redo, would it have changed my life? I couldn't tell you. But the one regret that I have was the summer of '86. And I don't know any other way to say it, but I'm just going to tell you flat out. I would go into the 7-Eleven, and I was on the cover of 20% of the magazines in the rack, and my head was the size of this room. And I turned on the TV, I was there. So there was about a 4 or 5 month period, I was lapping it up with a spoon. And I made a bad record because of it, and it scarred me for life. So I learned, get your ego in check, because if you keep making bad records, you ain't gonna be on the cover of magazines very much longer. So I learned a very valuable and painful lesson. What's my priorities? Keep your eyes on the prize. Try to make the best records you can, because ultimately at the end of the day, every one of these things you guys are holding, these records here, these are little time capsules. And when they're done, they're done. You don't get to get them back and try to fix them again. So you better get it right when you're doing it. Yes, sir.
My question is about you're going to release a demo album with all the early stuff. Are you ever going to do something that covers the entire genre?
Well,
Like
it'll
a
be
box
part of an
set?
anthology. So there's going to be at least 40 songs we've looked at now, but that doesn't include the demos. Because what he's asking about is, we're talking about doing an anthology in 24. And so we recorded the first album. We did 3 sets of demos. And the first set was pretty good. I mean, it had all the stuff Love Machine, by the time we got to the second set, they were a little more polished, but they just sounded vicious. You know, we digitized everything this past summer, and I hadn't heard those things since we did them. And the thing that really blew me away was Randy's and Tony's vocals, how good they were. I mean, those guys could sing their butts off. And listening to all of us together, I mean, we were 24 years old, 25 years old. You know, we were young and hungry, and it's nasty. And if I had to do it over again, going back to your question, I would have refused to record the first album, and we would have used the demos. Major labels want you to re-record it because they want to own the masters, you know, but knowing what I know now, I would have said, no, you use this or you don't use it. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask about Elvis. I think you did the microphone stuff way before, like Jonathan Davis with H.I. Giger.
Sure.
And I just kind of wanted to know, who did you design Elvis with? And just about
Elvis was a combination of things that happened over a period of time. And we're talking about the microphone stand. It went through several incarnations.
Yeah.
It started, I was in a hotel room, and there was a door stop at the bottom of the door, the spring ones, and I hit it one day and went bang, and I thought, there's an idea. And so I started looking at the, you know, the playgrounds where the kids got the little hobby horses and the single spring. So we tried that and it didn't work. So we went to some of the guys that had done some stuff for us before Disney. And they told me what they thought was right. And so we just started a little at a time, you know, just kind of hodgepodging it together. And you can't, we had gone to Disney once before when we were building the sign in the early days. And they didn't know how to do it either. We found that every time you do something that's really unique, there is no one to go to ask, how'd you do this?
Right.
Nobody's done it before. So anytime you do that, it's a lot of trial and error. The Disney guys told us, they said, you're gonna need 4 springs to make this work. And I said, well, why can't we use just one? They said, it won't support the weight and it won't do what you wanna do. And I said, well, the kids use them in a playground. They go, trust us, it won't work. So, against their will, we did it with 1 spring. They kept falling over. So then we went to a 4-spring system in the corners, and each one of those coils, which is what you're going to, you won't see the coils tonight, but inside there are 4 that are about this big, and they're 10,000 pound test coils each. They're the same things that go on semi-trucks.
Okay.
I mean, they're nasty, they're big.
Yeah.
And it has to have that to support the weight. There's 800 pounds in the base, and there's, Elvis is 125 pounds.
Wow.
So you put my 220 on top of it. When you get up to the top, you're doing this, the torque on that thing has got to be solid on the bottom. Because the very first night, the final incarnation of what you see now, he had a different head. And the head had horns about 6 inches tall on top of it. They were about that big around. They were really sharp on the points. And we were in the recording studio. And the guys brought it in about midnight, and we were done. And so I told them, I said, well, you guys go on home. You know, I'm going to just play around with this thing for a little bit and see what it can do. You know, because we did not know what it could do yet. It's one of the, you know, it was kind of bass-ackwards reverse engineering the way we did it. You know? So they all left, and I got up on the thing, and I discovered that when you go in a circle, your gyroscope in your ear does this, you know, for your balance. Well, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden my gyroscope started doing this. And everything went into slow motion, and I thought, this is not good, whatever it is. Next thing I know, off I go off the end. We didn't have the weight in the base yet. So the torque with me doing this, it just threw me off there. I mean, you guys got a good look at that down there. That thing is not a toy. That thing can hurt you if you're not prepared to deal with it. So it throws me off the end. It comes down next to me. One of the horns, there was a hardwood floor in the studio. The horn goes into the floor about 1.5 inches, about 4 inches away from my rib cage. And I laid there, and I looked over at it, and I thought, if this thing would have punctured my lung, I would have bled out right here. the guys would have come in the next day, saw me, they're thinking the damn thing killed me, you know, which it would have. And so I developed all new respect for him after that. You know, he can, hey, if you want a good workout, I should sell those on TV. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I do have a question. With all the touring that you do, how do you find the time and how do you eat healthy and stay healthy? Be healthy.
You have to make an effort. There's a lot of times you can't, but you really have to make a concentrated effort.
There's only so much burgers and fries a person can stand to eat.
Well, yeah, but you know, we advance everything before we get to where we're going. So a lot of times we'll have food brought in, which is most of the time. And you can kind of pick and choose, you know, what's out there. But also, to be completely honest, we take a grocery bag of supplements with us too, and it's not just stuff you can get over the counter. We get special help from doctors and all that. Yes, well, you ought to know, you're a wrestler.
Yeah, I'm the wrestler thing. I was wondering, heavy metal and wrestling were arguably the height of their popularity, like the late 80s, early 90s. I want to know if you had any encounters with a wrestler, like if there's any overlap or any memorable ones.
Goldberg lives not far from me, and we did a show with him, a convention in '98, and Paul White and a bunch of the guys came down and stuff. But if you guys know Paul White, he's called the Big Show. He's huge, and he comes up to me, and I'm 6'4", he's like 6'9". You know, he's dwarfing me. And he comes up this mountain of a guy and he goes, I gotta tell you, dude, I'm shitting my pants. And I go, why? He goes, you don't understand. You know, I've been a huge fan. So, I mean, here's this gigantic guy, you know, acting like a little kid in front of me, you know. Those guys are all great.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, in the back.
So I was just wondering, the armadillo in your music video, was it someone's pet, and do you have any pets of your own?
No, there was a literal armadillo wrangler that we used on the set. He was also the guy that brought in the rattlesnakes.
Oh God, I can remember.
And yeah, you're right for believing that.
You were too close to that snake.
Well, I mean, I'm from here to the edge of this table away from the snake. They always say this: they can strike half their body length. And I've got my head down, and you know, on the sand, and the director keeps going, get closer, get closer. I go, you get closer. Because once you hear, if you've ever heard that rattle, where we live in California, we got a lot of them. So if you've ever heard that sound, it's unmistakable. You never forget it. You know. But back to your question, the guy that was doing the armadillos, he brought them in, and it took us where the little armadillo race is. It took us 4 hours to get that shot. Because we put the guys that were putting the saw blade on him, he'd get his little claws up underneath the strap and he'd keep flipping it off. And if we got it on too tight, then he couldn't move, you know? And so we were just getting ready to move on to the next shot. We couldn't wait any longer because we were losing time. And so we tried it one more time, and the final shot that you see in the video was the final take that we got. So we got it on the last one. Yes, sir.
I'm real curious now. What album do you consider to be not a good album? Not a good record that you
Service.
Oh,
Because
I like that.
I mean, it's got moments. It's got moments, you know. But you know, when you're thinking something already, and somebody comes up to you and says something to you that's really what you've already been thinking, it stings a little deeper. You know, and it could be anything in life. Well, we were in the UK, and I was reading a review on 9/5 Nasty, and it was the #1 pick of the week over even some. U2 had released something, and it was picked over U2. But I would never forget what the guy wrote when he was writing the article. He says, "We picked this as the #1 single of the week, but Wasp were capable of so much more than us." Buddy, when I read that, because I'm already thinking. And so when somebody confirms negatively what you're already thinking, it's like I just sit there. It's just I wanted to bite a nail because I knew he was right. the song okay? Yeah, it was all right. It was a good song. But when you know you've got more in you than that, because I was out screwing around, you know, playing with my newfound toy of notoriety, you know, I mean, it's, hey, listen, when I went through that summer, it was everything it was cracked up to be, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. But I found that I'm the kind of person I have to focus. I cannot multitask. I gotta focus on those records. It's the only way. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for doing this for us. I'm
Thank you.
kind of new to it, married into it, and
You
I'm
ain't
falling
no
in
more than
love.
me.
So thank you. I appreciate your genuineness. When you were in Cleveland, you mentioned your opinion of what happened with the Indians, as I will still call them. So I appreciate your
that was
genuine.
funny.
But how do you balance your faith with rock and roll?
Well, going back, I made a crack when we were in Cleveland about the Indians changing their name. And it aggravated the crap out of me because I'm part Blackfoot, and I can tell you right now, Native American Indians don't give a shit. You know, it's like it's a joke. But, you know, with all the woke culture that's out there now, I guess it's going to do what it's going to do until we speak up. But as far as the balance of the faith, that's a constant ongoing struggle. You know, Paul wrote in the New Testament, "Oh wretched man that I am." You know, that's a mouthful right there. I mean, this is the guy that wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, and he's still saying this about himself. You know, so I look at it and I think, well, he's saying that, who am I to, you know, try to think that I can surpass that? Yes.
I know you're a huge baseball fan. Your favorite player and why?
Well, my generation grew up, just been being from Staten Island, I'm a Yankee fan, right? So,
there's some.
yeah.
I'm sorry for that. No, that's all right.
All right, I'll be going now.
No.
Has Tim still beat the Cleveland teams, by the way?
I'm
I'd
a
say-
huge Reds fan, so
Oh,
that's,
big room shoes.
yes, I think that's just my guy. I'm just curious who
Mickey.
I,
You know, I mean, he was New York.
He was
City.
the man.
He would be what Derek Jeter would be later on.
I'm sure
So,
Derek
it's like-
Jeter was in his class.
I was probably maybe 8. And the first time my dad took me to Yankee Stadium was 7. And those leave lasting impressions. And Billy Crystal tells the story the best in City Slickers. He talks about going through those dark tunnels and everything was in black and white in those days on television. You know, and we'd never seen a game in color. And you walk out, and Yankee Stadium was this mecca. You know, I mean, everything about it was just magnificent. And you walk out, and the grass was really, really green. Our tickets were right behind home plate, maybe like 10 rows back. And we got there early, and I'm watching Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris warm up. And I know, even at my age, I knew who these guys were. They were gods. You know,
Are
and I'm
gods.
And I'm looking at them, and I'm going, and so those leave lasting impressions. And so about a couple of years later, Mickey's legs started to fail him. And the right center field wall of Yankee Stadium was, at that point, I think it was 411 feet. And he hit a ball that bounced off the top of the wall, and they almost threw him out of first base. And I asked my dad, what's going on? He says, son's legs. And I cried. This guy was my hero. That's it.
You.
You're doing bad.
It's all about you.